Hey, if you were coming here to learn how to teleport, how to move your base, how to combine units, how to play Warpath, and what counters what, then you've come to the right video, and I'm going to show you how to do all of that. So to start us off, light tanks are pretty much mobility focused. They're not great against howitzers, not great against medium tanks or heavy tanks. Infantry are great for fortifications, stuff of that nature. Not a terribly useful unit outside of hitting infantry and soaking up damage. Howitzers are great for fortifications, but generally they're not great against infantry. If you're going to use launchers are great against infantry and stuff of that nature. Super heavy tanks are great against going after players with lots of fortifications and heavy tanks. Heavy tanks are great against medium and light tanks. Tank hunters are great against heavy tanks. But all of that, right? Really, what is it exactly? How do we use these tanks, really? Generically, you can get this stuff off the wiki. You can look through it. I'll have a bare bones guide of telling you how to do it on the fandom. But here's really what we use them for, okay? So, you have to think in terms of mobility and also what they're for. Tank hunters will kill any kind of tank, but super heavy tanks are great against heavy tanks for the same reason that, tank hunters are pretty much shit in terms of defense. Not a very useful thing. So howitzers, launchers, and stuff of that nature. Anything with arty, we use them on bases against PvP. Most of the time, you're going to see people using howitzers if they really want to crank out a lot of DPS, but most of the time they use launchers for the mobility. My suggestion is to use one camp in particular because you're going to get bonuses if you get your camp upgraded. In case you don't know what I'm talking about, go to the bottom right, hit system. You're going to see that there are actual bonuses in relation to how many units from a certain camp that you use at any given time. In the beginning, it won't be a really big factor, but down the road, you definitely want to know what camp you're going to subscribe to. I use Vanguard because they get access to super heavy tanks. To power level, okay, if you want to grow faster, you need to do the campaign because the campaign is the strongest indicator for what's going to give you access to gold. It's going to give you access to early missions. And what you want to do is you want to go around scouting the map and you want to get and clear as many of them as you possibly can. The faster you can clear, the more gold you're going to get for free through plunder. Now, my setup, I'm using Tiger tanks. I have an E50. I also happen to have, a pair. I used some Nashorn tanks back there, which are tank hunters. I've got infantry, and then I've got some howitzers that are from the Camp Liberty branch. Now, generally, if you're going to pick a camp, launchers are unique to the mortars, where in Camp Liberty, the actual light tanks themselves are more their strong suit. Usually the armor is better in the Camp Liberty branch for tanks, but you have to think in terms of mobility at all times. We're talking really great armor in terms of medium to light. That's mostly in that particular area. But again, make sure to subscribe if you guys are interested in Warpath, because again, I'm just going to give you a real bare bones idea of what you got to do. But if you're going to pick certain units over others, just realize that it comes down to mobility. Generally I don't use light tanks, medium tanks, or heavy tanks that often. But you want to save your gold because there are a couple of different places that you will want to check every day. Of course, you want to do those events. That's how you power level in this game. It's really based entirely on you're going to have to be doing production, you're going to have to do campaign, and you got to do both because the one main factor in increasing your level is going to be primarily based on that. Now, of course, there are some options that as you increase your VIP level, there's essentially dailies that you can pay for. So power play is $50, and then the daily arms is $10, and that's a couple thousand gold you get for free, but it's primarily based on your VIP level. Your VIP level here is going to give you a lot of extra additional bonuses, and this is what really gets people monumentally ahead faster. So if you want to use up some of your gold and grab, some extra bonuses along the way from the VIP store, then do so. And if you're going to get them, get camp coupons, get universal coupons, because those are going to give you the most for your buck, because you can go to the tech tree and you can actually go over and upgrade your buildings. So if you don't know what I'm referring to, I'm talking about this building right here. You go to assembly, and then in here you just assemble them together. So there's rankings from 4 to 3 to 2 to 1, and obviously you can get 4.5, and then 5, which is gold, and then 6, which is and so the stars are essentially resembling the ranking of the actual unit itself. And as you progress, you can check it in the assembly. If you've ever wondered how to move your base, it's airlift. Top left, it looks like kind of like an icon right below the magnifying glass. That's how you move your base. Now, of course, if you wanted to move over a really far distance, then what you do is you scroll out, and then you can pick wherever you want to go and just scroll from there. Now, granted, this isn't infinite. You actually have to have airlift coupons. They're inside your inventory. Just go to your supply and then hit on the right tag, and you'll see how many you have. Most of the time, most people will not have a lot of these, but you can buy them in the VIP store, or you can sometimes get them in the black market. Again, the different tabs in the map menu, so to speak, when you scroll out, will tell you all the different things that you can see. Obviously, every alliance-based building will have different benefits for owning them. So, again, it's not just about the villages. You got to go after those major supply points that were initially owned by the Raven, and that's what's going to give you an advantage over time. It's something that is often overlooked, but it's something that, needless to say, if you don't pay attention to it, you will be missing out quite severely on a lot of things that you're getting ahead of. Now, I would say if you're going to get ahead, you can get around 20,000 or so gold completely free if you just go around viewing the map with your scout plane. You can get a shitload of gold from plunder. Like, it's actually ridiculous. Like, when it was all said and done, I had around 23,000 gold right around just from plunder. So if you don't know what that is, just scroll out, go to the top left magnifying glass, and then change your view settings to show you resources to see where the level 4 and 5 resource tiles are if you're ever sending collection in, boys. But also if you want to see where plunder is once you've scouted the map out with your scout planes. Again, the game is based primarily on progression and leveling, but you also want to make sure you get use of those camp coupons. Now again, you can buy to your win success if you want to, but in my opinion, you can do this in the black market. Just take the gold you have, trade them for camp coupons, and get universal coupons. And then every 100 universal coupons you get, you'll get a level 5 card, and you can use that to get another unit in whatever camp you're using. Since I go Vanguard, I just throw it into Vanguard every time, so that way I can progressively increase from there. Now, of course, you can increase your VIP level, and there's a lot of benefits in there. I would really say that it would be such a bad idea to think about maybe taking some of your free-to-play gold and throw that into VIP, because VIP is pretty advantageous the more you have down the road. It is, and in a lot of ways. But on a short note, right, what are the best units and what camps? So generally speaking, right, if you're going to go anti-tank, right, anti-tank is going to be between the Martyrs and the Germans. If you're going howitzers and artillery, then you're going to want to probably go with Camp Liberty or the Americans. If you're talking launchers, right, that's unique to the Soviets, and they've got really good launchers. If we're talking tanks, then, obviously the Vanguard are the Germans, so you've got your Maus prototypes, the E50 before that, and then, of course, variations of that, which are just heavily armored tanks. And again, when it comes to arty, there's a lot of choices there, but just realize that whichever you do decide is going to be primarily based on mobility. As far as playstyle is concerned, a lot of players initially I found like having faster units. Again, you can get MP40s, STGs, and so forth, but I believe the AK-47 unit from the Soviets is the best infantry unit in that slot. If you're going to be picking like best tank hunter, that's going to be on the Soviet side. If you're talking, if we're talking like medium to light tanks, that's Camp Liberty. And if you're going to do like heavy tanks, I'm pretty sure it's in the German Vanguard section, as well as the super heavy tanks, because that's unique to them. But outside of that, really, with all the other variations of unit types in the game, the main thing is groups, alliances, having friends, because that is ultimately what determines the victory a lot of the time. Because no one person can really do everything. And if you're going to use infantry, just use them for fortification buffer, and then proceed to use siege if you're going to do that. But that's when you're attacking places and bases and stuff of that nature. But hopefully that was somewhat helpful and somewhat insightful for the game for you guys, and hopefully you learned a thing or two. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on another Warpath video.